Yo, what's good? It's your boy B-Dale. I'm back with a prophetic divination. If you're new to this channel, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. But today I'm going to give a brief synopsis on the Anunnaki prophecies that's conducive to the Mississippi River drying up, which is the precursor to hyperinflation, the destruction of the economic system, the ecosystem, and the ecology of the planet, because the laws of mankind doesn't equate to the laws of nature, right? So this is the final hour destruction of the three-dimensional Piscean illusion that is galvanized and facilitated by Luciferians who control artificial history and the corporate legal fiction of the facto corporation that works in synergy with the moon, right? But first, we're going to start out with a publication by NASA that specifies that there's going to be an amalgamation of calamity and floods and desolation on the planet due to the shifting of the moon, because the moon is the embodiment of a lunar light lock, which is synonymous to a light code lockdown that puts your mind in a state of mental and physical subjugation, because the moon is what controls the electromagnetic grid on the planet that's connected to technology, and technology is the third eye for the beast. And the beast system is predicated upon the material world. So the moon is what controls the material world, through energy, frequency, and vibration, right? So this is why the vast majority of people are under a sleep spell under materialism. But materialism in itself that's connected to patriarchy is not in symbiotic connection with a matriarch, because matriarch is connected to nature, and nature has to take back the planet, right? So it says NASA officials just announced that the moon shifted and is going to cause record flooding on the earth, right? So with that being said, when you go to this passage right here, when you go to this publication right here, it says verbatim, by 2025, it would be lit up night and day with solar power alone. That's because when you had that solar eclipse that happened on October 25th, that was the divine feminine energy, the gamma radiation that was hitting the planet. Because like I said, everything, when you understand the inception, how everything was created in the first 6,000 year sun cycle, everything was connected to the energy of the sun. Everything wasn't based on a lunar dynamic, right? So that's why you see the sun and the moon out at the same time during the daytime, because like I said, the lunar cycle is phasing out, and the lunar cycle is conducive to the material world, and the material world is conducive to the people who don't belong on this goddamn planet, right? So now I'm going to show you a publication by Dr. York called "This is the End," right? And it says verbatim that the scientists today foresee devastating and eventual destruction of the planet and uncontrolled industrialization and general famine resulting from overpopulation and food distribution breakdown. So this also, corresponds to the hothouse effect that creates excessive carbon dioxide on the planet that creates droughts, right? So now when you go to that, look at that aspect of it. Now let's get to some theological context. So now when you go to these theological contexts, when you go to the wisdom of Solomon, right? When you go to this passage of the wisdom of Solomon, it says the beginning, ending, in the midst of times, the authorizations of the turning of the sun and the change of the seasons. So when you have the change of the seasons, this is the planet reverting back to its original balance and back into its original state, right? So all these things on the planet that don't belong to the planet is got to be decimated, right? Now we're going to go to another part of the scripture. There's another scripture you got to look at, Isaiah 19. And the water shall fail from the sea, and the river shall be wasted and dried up. So like I said, when you understand the dynamics and the laws of physics, everything operates through the principles of cycles. Everything works in motion and order. So anything that dissipates in nature has to come the fuck back, right? So that's why when they talking about record flooding, everything that was decimated and dissipates in nature is going to come back with full force, right? So now we're going to go back to Dr. York's publication, right? There's another part of the publication when it's talking about, calamity. I don't think that's the one. right? So now it says right here verbatim that America is going to shut down America is going to shut down according to the Mississippi rivers drying up, which is at record low on the planet, because the ecology, the ecosystem also works in synergy with the three-dimensional plane that we live in. So everything, when you're talking about these diesel shortages and things of that nature, all this is basically in symbiotic connection, right? All this works in synergy. So these are prophetic times, which is connected to the seven thunders, the seven plagues that's synonymous to the 7-year tribulation. You got to look at that one of the videos I put out last month talking about the 7-year tribulation period from 2023 to 2030. So now the seven plagues were prophesied by the Anunnaki, the Hopis, the Yamansi, and the Wabians, right? And this is basically the signing of the return of the Christ consciousness, or the mothership, or Nibiru, right? So now these are the signs of the times recorded by ancient Neteru, or ancient Egypt, passed down through the time. They are called the thunders or the plagues. So right now, according to what's going on the planet right now, we are at the sixth thunder, which is the sixth seal, right? As we're going to segue into the 7-year tribulation. And the sixth thunder is basically talking about the changes occur, the star people return, signs in the skies, new planets, new galaxies, meteorite storms, calamity alterations, global warming, spiritual revivals, the presence of divine feminine energy, disregard the respect for the present of the world governments and leaderships and politics. And then on the seventh thunder, it says that the end of the world as you know it is by year 2030. So that also corresponds to the fact that they want to decimate 68 to 80% of the population on the planet, according to the Deagle publication that came out not too long ago. So all this is, working in synergy with that 7-year tribulation video I put out. And it also corresponds to the last video that I put out when you're talking about the Crystal City, right? Because all this corresponds to about the prophecies of the Anunnaki, right? Because all these things must come to pass. So I'm going to show you some videos of these rivers and everything drying up.
Has hit its lowest ever recorded water level in Memphis, and the level is forecasted to fall even lower because of the drought in the mid-south and Midwest. The river now sits at more than -10 feet. Shipping traffic is affected, with many vessels struggling to navigate up and down the river. And in Baton Rouge, check this out. Look at the low levels and what it exposed. A wreckage of what's believed to be a trading ship that sank in 1915. That image telling the full story right there.
Sam, how much of that is also not enough snow from last winter? Because doesn't snow then melt and run?
This is long term. So yeah, at that point, the Mississippi River would have taken last season's snow and melt and kind of moved it. This is from all of that, the rain that we didn't get in early spring and summer, certainly. So these are historic levels of drought. You've got images of people hiking well into the middle of what should be a full basin of water in the Mississippi River, and you've got all kinds of things like that ship that Charlene just showed you. So the long range,
the Mississippi.
So this is nature fighting back. You know what I'm saying? You pulled out every goddamn element. You pulled out every intrinsic resource. You pulled out all the goddamn golds and the metals and the coppers out of the planet, and you wonder why you have droughts, and you wonder why you have earthquakes. So, you know what I'm saying? This is the planet fighting back. And it's also denoted in the fact that when these rivers dry up, there is basically ancient tunnels that lead to subterranean kingdoms on the planet, right? Because, the Mississippi River in itself is all throughout the coast, where a lot of mounds that were basically built during that time period, right? In the mounds, it tells you right here, it says that where did the most of the giants roam on this planet? It says that it happened in North America due with the mound culture. So most of those mounds that you see that's at the bottom of these rivers, they had giants in them. So when you're talking about the Nephilim, the Neteru, or the Anunnaki, these are some of the beings that was inside these mounds that's connected to these celestial, these waters that we have on our planet that's drying up, because these waters have underground caverns in them that lead to our Argartha and Shambhala, right? And I'm going to show you something here. You know, because the Euphrates River, these rivers is drying up because this is nature telling you, you know, we must, you know, this is just my opinion. This is just me theorizing. I really believe that Mother Nature is basically telling us we have to, in order to escape the calamity that's going to take place in the future, we have to go inside the planet, because that's what the ancients did. How you think the Mayans escaped calamity on the planet? How you think the Atlanteans escaped calamity on the planet? They all went inside the center of the earth. You know what I'm saying? This is the Euphrates River. You know what I'm saying? These are the underground caverns that's, you know, what that they basically seen when the rivers and everything dried up. These are the underground caverns that lead to subterranean worlds that they don't want you to know about, right? Because like I tell you, they want you to think that redemption is above your head, when redemption is at the bottom of your feet. That's why the Bible and all these theological contexts, they demonize underground, because they think that they want you to think that's where the devil is at, right? So now when you go back to Dr. York's publication, now when you're talking about these galactic beings, when you're talking about the Anunnaki, when the Anunnaki came down, you know, you had before the first flood of Noah that happened, you had 4 different cycles of calamity that happened before the flood of Noah, which is about 17 million years ago. Now, these beings, when you're talking about the Anunnaki, when you had calamity on the planet, these are the Danakil tribe. The Danakil tribe went inside the planet to escape the ice glacier floods and things of that nature. They went inside the planet when you got the subterranean kingdom, talking about Argartha, the Rainbow City, and things of that nature. These are the beings that they talking about, who are 9 feet tall, 10 feet tall. These are the beings that, you know what I'm saying, that's inside the mounds that was all throughout the coast of the Mississippi River, right? So now when you go to back to Dr. York's publication, the book is called Let's Talk About the End, right? So according to Genesis 11, that they came down to Earth and have been extraterrestrial, according to the definition. Extra, a prefix signifying outside and outside the scope of the region, beyond and more than besides. Terrestrial, pertaining to Earth, existing on Earth. Now, this means that anybody and anything that came down was originally not from planet Earth, is an extraterrestrial. So according to Genesis 11:5, God is an extraterrestrial. There are many and other accounts that can be found in the Bible regarding extraterrestrial involvement, as well as the Quran. So that's when the Quran, it talks about, you know, according to the Tetragrammaton, agreeable and disagreeable, it says that the sons of God came down to the daughters of men, right? Mysterious clouds, the burning of bushes. So now this is where you get the angels, when you're talking about your so-called angels are your Anunnaki, right? And they came down in human form and went inside the planet. So this is where referred to the Bible or the Quran as gods and angels, and they can be agreeable or disagreeable reptilians, which is what your basically your so-called devil is. You know what I'm saying? So these are just examples that are basically taken out of context due to mysticism. That so this is what's bringing you down to reality. You know what I'm saying? According to this publication that was written by Dr. York. Right? So now, you know, all this stuff corresponds. So when I'm talking about when you're talking about these ancient beings that live inside the planet, you know, these are, you know, according to the Smithsonians, who try to hide history, you know, through the fallacies of archaeology, you know, these are the giants that they found inside the mounds. These are the Neteru, the Anunnaki that came down, and then when they escaped calamity, you know what I'm saying, they went inside the planet. You see what I'm saying? And these mounds are on the coast and up and down the bodies of rivers that's drying up on the planet, the Euphrates River, the Mississippi River. These mounds got giants inside of them, right? So these are illustrations of what I'm talking about. This is real. So now I'm going to show you a video of a man talking about these giants being so-called black people who are basically extraterrestrial. You got to pay attention to everything that he's saying, because to a certain standpoint, he's speaking in code.
But also talk about that fabric or whatever, you know, the fabric. But before you get to that, I want to stop you and back up to that gold tooth. That wasn't a normal skull. You're talking that was a giant. It was a skull. It wasn't a normal. Measure. They had an archaeologist come out and look at the bones video. They said, "This guy is Negro." Huh? Oh, and I thought, wow, because so many of the people that are found in Utah with their giants are quite often redheaded and light-skinned people. This guy was not.
Now you understand where they get the concept of red-headed beings when you're talking about Dragon Ball Z, because these giants who are your so-called Negroids, they had red hair. They had an amalgamation of different color spectrums of hair texture.
I mean, we don't know what color hair he had to be told for you. Prior to the authorities on that time to look at it. You know, it was pretty common for people to get a lot of burials. It wasn't believed or control. Right. So most stuff like that is found usually after a heavy rainstorm and a lot of flooding. Or it's also found farmers will be digging and building things and making ditches, removing a lot of dirt. And a lot of it's found by accident. The truth is, when giant burials are at, there's a certain geological relationship where they're buried. Really? I'm not going to tell you. Okay. I don't want that found out. Okay. There's about 4 different styles. And not everything that's dug up is a giant from ancient times here. A lot of people don't understand that. There's a bunch of people up a canyon where that 9-foot Negro was there. If you go to the end of that canyon, there's these big spirals carved in stone. I mean, they are massive, and they go down into the sandstone and get out of there. Those people are there only about 6 feet tall, all the way down to babies, and they are redheads. They're not giants. But they're definitely from an ancient civilization. They're not buried. Right. Don't go figure. I can't tell anybody who would. My take on that is not ridiculous on the end of the burial. My thing is, I like to know who they are, where they came from, what kind of people they are. And that's the same as me. I'm good. Yeah, that's the same as me. We let you just have their own. One, are they real? 2, if they are, who were they?
They are the Anunnaki, right? These beings he's talking about are Anunnaki. This is real. So like I said, the giants that roamed the earth were connected to the mounds. So now you got to get this publication right here. It says the myths of the mound builders of the ancient America. So it's connected to the Anunnaki bloodline. The Anunnaki are thought to be linked to reptilians and have been continuously be the same species, you know, according to the Neteru or the Nephilim or the Elohim. These are the same beings, the Danakil tribe that went inside the planet to escape calamity. And these beings also created civilization when you're talking about Atlantis, because Atlantis predates Egypt, right? So you got to get this publication right here. So it goes in, it talks about, you know, the creators of pyramids, the Stonehenge, mermaids, the Illuminati, you know, the myths of the mound builders, right? So get this publication right here. It's a really good book. So also, this also corresponds to, you already read that. This also corresponds to everything that's going on the planet right now. because I told you the beings that came down, according to the Anunnaki, when you're talking about the Yahwehs, right? According to the Tetragrammaton, which means agreeable and disagreeable, they came down, the 24 galactic elders, right? These are basically, you know, it talks about in the book of Genesis 15:11 when the birds came down. When you're talking about Ptah, Tahuti, Thoth, you know what I'm saying? This is signifying that there were blue avians that was connected to the Anunnaki bloodline. They came down, right? And it says that God simply came down if God is in heaven, stated in the Revelations 3:12. In the Greek terms, Uranus means Orion, which is the 19th galaxy, right? So then they came down from the 19th galaxy, which is basically your so-called heavens, right? The Orion star constellation. So this is in a publication called Let's Talk About the End by Dr. York. Okay. I think I accidentally deleted the video, but oh well. So now we're going to get into where's it at? Now, this also corresponds to the fact that, you know, there, you know, you got the diesel shortages coming up. Then you got, you know, rumors of war. When you're talking about Russia warns America for a target commercial satellites, which is your so-called EMP attack, which is a electromagnetic pulse frequency. It's a frequency modification weapon that knocks out the biotonic grid node on the planet that controls technology. So once that happens, this is why Joe Biden says it's going to be a dark winter. Or I think that Vladimir said the same thing. It's going to be a dark winter as well. So this is why it's imperative to understand that, you know, these food shortages also works in symbiotic connection, because, you know, when you have America shutting down due to a diesel shortage, it's going to cause, you know, a scarcity in food, a scarcity in resources, right? So now this is where we go to. Now this also corresponds. Now I could just be, you know, thinking too deep, but this also corresponds to the Kanye West aspect of things that's going on right now. Because what is Kanye West's logo? What is his symbol? What does he represent? He represents the bear. When you're talking about in the Bible, what does Russia represent? Represents the bear. So when Hitler said verbatim that, you know, World War III is going to start when the people find out who the true Jews are. Hey, like I said, I'm just connecting some dots here. So I could be thinking too deep. I mean, you can call me a goddamn conspiracy theorist or whatever, but, you know, that makes too much sense to me. So I could be thinking too deep about everything. So now you got, like I said, you got people like Kanye West coming out about the truth. And then, you know, you had Adolf Hitler saying the things that he was saying. So that, you know what I'm saying? All that shit basically works in synergy. So now I need to show you a video.
Ukraine. This country is about to run out of diesel fuel. According to data from the Energy Information Administration, by the Monday of Thanksgiving week, that's 25 days from now, there will be no more diesel. So what's going to happen then? Well, everything will stop. That means trucks and trains and barges all unable to move. Farm equipment will shut down. There will be no deliveries because there will be no trucks. There will be no diesel generators. And then inevitably, our economy will crash because everything runs on diesel fuel. Not on solar panels, not on wind farms, on diesel fuel. Diesel is not a negotiable commodity. You have to have diesel. So what happens when we...
So like I said, you better stock up on food. You know what I'm saying? When the planet is in a state of desolation and pandemonium, you know what I'm saying? Everything is going to be in a state of scarcity of goods, scarcity of resources. You know, this is, you know, everything we showing you right now, everybody who's speaking truth, this is not a game. So I'm going to show you another pup.
Well, yesterday, so what happens when we don't have it? Well, yesterday, Fox's Jackie Heinrich, apparently alone in the White House press corps, asked the White House spokesman, John Kirby, that very question. What's the plan here? We're running out of diesel. John Kirby, standing at the podium, representing the White House, the President of the United States, the administration, the largest organization in human history, the executive branch of government, had no answer. But don't worry, he said, we will be exporting plenty of energy to Europe to help fight that progressive crusade in Ukraine. Watch.
What are we doing to increase the supply of diesel, given that the Energy Information Administration said as of October 14th, U.S. only had about a 25-day supply. You have the Northeast and New York already rationing home heating oil. What are we doing to prepare for the winter and to ramp up the supply of diesel?
I'll take the question on the diesel because I just don't have the data on that in front of me. So let me take that and we'll get back to you on that. But writ large, the president has been working very, very hard to make sure that we're that not only are we ready for fluctuations that could come, and of course the prices are going down, and we think that's important, but that we are also doing what we can to help our European friends and partners who are also going to be facing a long, cold winter. We have doubled our commitment. The commitment he made in March for natural gas exports to Europe, we've doubled that commitment in terms of actual, getting things over there, getting natural gas over there. And we are working with foreign suppliers of natural gas and oil to see if we can't help our European partners diversify their own storage and supplies.
So just pause and savor the irony here just for a moment, because now everything is irony. They've been telling you for decades, since Al Gore left the White House, that the single greatest threat to the world was warming. And because of their efforts to fight warming, you are in danger of freezing. And unlike warming, freezing actually kills people, a lot of people every year. And it will kill people.
Like I told you, this also corresponds to the agenda of 2025. They want to decimate at least, 68 to 80% of the population on the planet. You got to look at that last video I put out, specifying that fact.
This year, thanks to their efforts to fight warming. Okay. The second thing to notice is the White House spokesman's totally uninterested, blasé response to the most basic question anyone could ask, which is, what are we doing about the fact we're running out of diesel fuel? And he has no idea, and he's not embarrassed that he has no idea. The problem is, at this point, there may not be an answer because there may not be a way to avoid a disaster. Diesel fuel is not just low in this country, it's low in every Western nation that has aligned itself with Ukraine. All these nations preparing for World War Trans are running out of diesel fuel. As New York Magazine has reported, the last time there was this little supply of diesel, there were about 3.5 billion fewer people on the planet. Well, that puts it in perspective. So the Biden administration responded, as you know, earlier this year to rising gas prices, which they feared above all because the midterms are coming in 2 weeks, by tapping the strategic petroleum reserves. But that will not work here. The Northeast Home Heating Oil Reserve contains 1 million barrels of diesel in case of emergencies. The problem is the demand is so high across the board that, according to the Washington Post, even if the Biden administration used every single barrel in that stockpile would be empty in less than 6 hours.
Damn. You know what I'm saying? Everything's working in synergy. These are, this is the final hour destruction of the three-dimensional illusion. The end of the Piscean energy. This is the end of it, right? So this is why they're doing all types of blood sacrifices. These blood sacrifices that's going on right now because they're trying to save face. This is why it says that 149 people died during the stampede and the Halloween festivities in Seoul, right, in South Korea. So this is, what I'm saying? These are blood rituals that they're trying to do. This is Babylonian blood magic that they're trying to do to combat climate change. They're trying to, save the three-dimensional illusion. But like I said, you can't carry a 3-dimensional energy into the goddamn 5th dimension. It don't work like that. All these things must end. All these things must come to pass, right? So now when we go to, there's another publication you got to get. I forgot to tell you guys about. When you're talking about the hidden cities from the mounds and everything, these hidden civilizations that takes you into underworlds and stuff. This publication called Hidden Cities, The Discovery and the Lost Ancient North American Civilization by Roger G. Kennedy. Get this book right here. It's a very good book. It tells you about the Mississippi Valley, the Mississippi and Ohio valleys, where you have an amalgamation of many different mounds and pyramids and things of that nature that predates the pyramids over in your so-called Egypt, which is Kemet. So all these things must come to pass. So with all that shit being said, you know, like I tell you all the time, utilize this information for utility. Get this information out there. We are living in very, you know, imperative times right now. So, you know, get the information out there, share this video, like, you know what I'm saying, to beat the algorithm. End of transmission.